Stephanie White addressed the media after the Indiana Fever's loss to the Atlanta Dream on June 18th, and her post-game remarks about Caitlin Clark are already stirring strong reactions. Instead of raising concerns about the officiating, even though Clark spent crucial stretches of the fourth quarter stuck on the bench due to questionable foul calls, White chose not to go down that road. She also didn't mention the Fever's costly coaching decisions, including a poorly timed challenge and rotations that left the team struggling to find rhythm. So the question is now everywhere. Who really deserves the blame for this defeat? The coaching decisions, the referees, or the players on the floor?
You're debuting the shoes tonight. How do you feel?
I just been smiling all day. I'm super excited.
And what's your favorite part about the shoes?
Favorite part? Oh, it's hard to pick one. I think the Nike swoosh is kind of cool. It's two of them, and then there's a hidden CC right there. So.
The Indiana Fever entered Gainbridge Fieldhouse on June 18th, sitting at 9-5 on the season, riding a strong 4-game winning streak and playing some of their most confident basketball of the year. All eyes were already on Caitlin Clark before tip-off, not just because of the momentum, but because of something brand new on her feet. For the first time in a real WNBA game, she stepped onto the court wearing her signature Nike shoe, the Caitlin 1, marking a major personal milestone in her career. Everything around the team seemed to be coming together at the right time. Kelsey Mitchell was aggressively breaking down defenses off the dribble, Aaliyah Boston was controlling the mid-post with authority, Sophie Cunningham was staying locked in from beyond the arc, and Clark was orchestrating the entire offense with her usual pace and vision. With the winning streak, the chemistry, and the spotlight moment for Clark, this matchup was expected to be another statement night for Indiana.
What's your favorite feature of the Caitlin look?
I have to pick just one. Oh my gosh. I think the fact that the outside part is C's and the inside part is 2's, but you can only tell close up.
Then Angel Reese arrived at the arena as well, also debuting her signature sneaker and making sure the cameras caught every angle of it. She introduced a new colorway of her shoe on the very same night Caitlin Clark was stepping into a major personal moment of her own. Whether it was intentional or just perfect timing, it quickly became part of the story. And not the last time Reese's presence would overlap with Clark's spotlight that night. Atlanta entered the matchup with a 10-4 record and plenty of confidence, built around a balanced roster where multiple players could score in double figures. Their identity had been consistent all season. Pressure the paint, stay physical, and wear teams down possession by possession. On paper, this wasn't just another regular game. It was a real clash between two Eastern Conference contenders. Indiana, riding a strong stretch of form, had every reason to believe they could extend their winning streak to 5 games. The Fever had momentum, they had chemistry, and they had their star leading the charge on a night that already felt significant, especially with Clark stepping onto the floor in her brand new signature shoes for the very first time in an official WNBA game.
Point lead for Atlanta. Austin bouncing, trying to free up Clark. Extra pass, Billings. Back for Clark, fire away, and hits a three!
Caitlin Clark opened her scoring in the Caitlin 1s with a clean three-pointer, and Gainbridge Fieldhouse erupted the moment it went through the net. It wasn't just an early bucket. It was the first official points ever recorded in her signature shoe, and the crowd knew exactly what they were witnessing. Her shot came off smooth, barely disturbing the net, setting the tone for what looked like it could become a dominant Indiana performance. For a stretch in the first half, it really did feel like the Fever were ready to pull away from Atlanta. Kelsey Mitchell was attacking with confidence. Aaliyah Boston was finishing strong in the mid-post. Sophie Cunningham was letting it fly from deep. And Clark was controlling the tempo of everything in between, but the game slowly shifted under the surface. Indiana ended the night with 17 turnovers, and those mistakes proved costly. Atlanta turned them into 20 points. On the other side, the Dream only committed 12 turnovers, and Indiana managed just 13 points off those opportunities. That 7-point difference ended up mirroring the final outcome almost exactly. When the final buzzer sounded, Atlanta walked away with a 108-101 win, marking the third time this season the Fever scored over 100 points and still came up short. The offense clearly wasn't the issue. So the real question became, what was breaking the rhythm? And it seemed to start earlier than many realized, with Caitlin Clark repeatedly getting caught in a whistle-heavy stretch that disrupted Indiana's flow and changed the pace of the game.
This season, it's like Stephanie White and the WNBA refs are working together. Anytime Caitlin Clark is on, she gets in immediate foul trouble with ghost fouls where she doesn't touch anybody, and there are no challenges whatsoever from the sideline.
Clark picked up her second foul before the break, and both whistles immediately had Fever fans replaying the clips in disbelief. On both plays, nothing about the defense looked overly aggressive. Feet were planted, arms were vertical, and the contact was minimal at best. Yet the whistle still went against her. Foul trouble is part of the WNBA, and every star deals with it. But when those calls keep stacking up on possessions where the replays don't clearly show a mistake, it starts to feel like more than just unfortunate timing. At that point, fans stop brushing it off as randomness and start questioning what they're actually watching.
4 of her fouls, she would have never got the calls if it was the other way around. Ryan Howard, one was elbowing her right in the chest. 2 of them, Canada just fell down, and another one of the softest calls you'd ever see. But it's bigger than that. They keep her in check from having one of those amazing games. It limits her ability to play defense. So first of all, if she gets near somebody, she's called for a foul. Second of all, she can't get another foul, so it makes it even worse. Third of all, she can't get minutes in the game because she's in foul trouble.
The first questionable whistle came in the second quarter when Caitlin Clark stayed in solid defensive position on the perimeter, hands up and body controlled, yet the referee still sent her to the line and quickly to the bench. That became her second foul, and from every angle, it didn't look like a clean one. From there, the situation only escalated. Each time Clark started to find a rhythm and Indiana began to build pressure, another whistle seemed to interrupt the flow and force her off the floor again. Instead of the Fever capitalizing on momentum, everything kept getting reset. Meanwhile, Atlanta benefited from those stoppages, regrouping each time as if the game had just started over. While Indiana's offensive rhythm never fully stabilized,
this is where it starts. 7 minutes in the second quarter. Look at this. Caitlin Clark takes a freaking elbow to the chest, and they give Ryan Howard a 3-point play instead of a...
By the time the third quarter arrived, fans were already keeping track of every whistle. A reaching call sent Caitlin Clark back to the bench for about 6 minutes. And once again, the replay didn't do much to support the decision. 6 minutes might not sound extreme on paper, but in a tightly contested game, it's an eternity, and Atlanta made full use of that stretch. Then came the fourth quarter, with Indiana still within reach of a comeback. Clark was hit with her 5th foul on a play where it looked like Jordan Canada may have simply lost her footing, yet the whistle still went against her. That effectively ended her ability to stay aggressive and be a real factor down the stretch. By that point, the term phantom fouls was already circulating online, with fans reacting before the final buzzer had even sounded.
This is a 3-point play. You think the refs are going to give her the 3-point play like they did Ryan Howard? No. Instead, they go down and call another foul on Caitlin Clark for what? She used her shoulder, rammed into Caitlin Clark, and fell down. And Stephanie White is still yet to challenge 1 ghost foul out of 20 this year.
Atlanta dominated the paint with 60 points, a season-high mark, and a large portion of that damage came during the stretches when Caitlin Clark was off the floor. Without her presence controlling the tempo, Indiana's interior defense struggled to hold up against constant drives and cuts. The Dream also lived at the free throw line, finishing with 35 attempts compared to Indiana's 29. That gap played a key role in helping Atlanta stay in control late, giving them steady points even when the offense slowed down in the half court. Whenever Indiana tried to tighten up defensively inside without Clark on the court, breakdowns followed, and Atlanta repeatedly capitalized with easy finishes. After the game, Clark herself pointed to those issues, noting how Atlanta got out in transition and consistently scored off organized cutting actions, roughly 90 cuts and 45 cuts, turning structured movement into uncontested looks at the rim.
And then Canada falls down again. just falls down. Can you imagine? If Caitlin Clark did that, she would never receive a foul. They would say she turns the ball over and the rest would not give her a call.
Stephanie White used Indiana's challenge in the third quarter on a call that, from the outside, didn't appear to require one, and it immediately left fans questioning the decision. It was a moment that felt costly in real time, especially given how tight the game was becoming. By the time the fourth quarter arrived, that challenge was long gone, and Indiana was in a situation where every advantage mattered. Caitlin Clark was already sitting on 5 fouls from several disputed calls, and the Fever had no way to review anything or protect themselves from another swing in momentum. Late in the game, Angel Reese finished through contact on a sequence that appeared to include a clear elbow on Clark during the shot attempt, yet the foul was called on Indiana instead. Reese ended the night with 21 points and 11 rebounds, solid production on the box score, but numbers alone didn't fully capture the physical back and forth that defined her matchup with Clark throughout the game. And that's exactly what has kept people debating long after the final buzzer. Even the tone of the night felt set before tip-off. Clark entered Gainbridge Fieldhouse wearing her Caitlin 1 signature shoes, drawing heavy attention from cameras and fans as she stepped onto the court for a milestone moment. Not long after, Reese made her own entrance, debuting a new colorway of her signature sneaker and making sure every camera angle caught the moment. Whether coincidence or not, it immediately added another layer to an already high-profile matchup.
With how she plays this end of the floor. Shot clock didn't start. That was the reason for the slight delay there. What I thought was cool in looking at Atlanta's history when it comes to teammates who are...
Then in the second quarter, things escalated again when Angel Reese grabbed Caitlin Clark's arm on a drive and a foul was called on the play. But what happened next is what really got people talking. Instead of simply resetting for the free throw, Reese turned back toward Clark, who was still gathering herself after the contact, and began exaggeratedly reacting, flailing and sticking out her tongue in a mocking gesture, as if mimicking Clark's response to the play. The cameras didn't miss a second of it. Clark, as she usually does, didn't engage. She stayed composed, barely reacting, and just headed to the line. That kind of calm is exactly why moments like this stand out even more, because while one player is clearly performing for the moment, the other refuses to bite. The Fever bench noticed it, the crowd noticed it, and the officials were right there as it happened. Yet nothing followed. No technical, no warning, no intervention at all. That lack of response said just as much as the play itself about how the game was being controlled.
The story tonight. Outscoring the Fever by 2. With that three-pointer by 5 now, a 19-14 bench advantage. Now, Zelma, it took a while to pick up her third personal. She got the 2 quickies in the first quarter. And she's got 3 personals now. Caitlin Clark asking about the contact on that, and it looks like, oh yeah.
Then came the ankle incident. On a loose sequence, Caitlin Clark came down near Angel Reese's foot, and instead of pulling her leg away to avoid contact, Reese appeared to extend it outward, leading to Clark rolling her ankle on the landing. The replay has been widely circulated, and many point out that Reese had a clear moment to retract her position, but didn't. Clark, to her credit, shook it off, stayed in the game, and didn't make any public issue of it afterward, consistent with how she usually handles physical situations. But in the context of everything else happening that night, questionable foul calls, constant disruptions to her rhythm, and Indiana already burning through key coaching decisions, this was another moment added to an already frustrating sequence. And now, on top of it all, she was also visibly working through an ankle scare while trying to keep the game under control.
Just complete with how she plays this end of the floor. Shot clock didn't start. That was the reason for the slight delay there. What I thought was cool in looking at Atlanta's history when it comes to teammates who were wanting to extend.
Aaliyah Boston answered with a strong performance inside, repeatedly attacking Atlanta's paint defense and finishing the night with 23 points on highly efficient shooting. Kelsey Mitchell also did her part, relentlessly targeting mismatches and pouring in 26 points of her own. Indiana wasn't just taking hits. They were fighting back possession by possession, but Angel Reese still made her presence felt on the glass, grabbing 11 rebounds, including several key offensive boards that came on possessions where Indiana had actually defended well. Those second-chance opportunities proved costly, as Atlanta consistently turned them into points that helped them stay in front even when the Fever Man looked ready to swing momentum. And yet, through all of it, there were no technical fouls called at any point during the night. Reese's earlier on-camera antics toward Clark went unpunished, and even the more physical sequences around Clark's ankle were ruled as clean. In the end, the officials let the game flow without adding any extra penalties, despite how heated and physical the matchup became.
Since from Atlanta. And she left Kara Lawson speechless.
Yes, and wanting more.
Right. Caitlin Clark finding more.
Just consistent, but someone that's really impactful as it relates to winning.
Caitlin Clark in the mid-range, gives it back up to Billings. Clark fires for her first three-pointer of the night. Second field goal, 5 points for Jordan Canada. 5 points in 5 minutes. Caitlin Clark looking for it against Pow Pow, spins off.
The second half opened with a completely different feel, and not in a good way for Indiana. Caitlin Clark's foul trouble continued to build, and Stephanie White's substitutions started raising eyebrows. Instead of pulling her strictly based on foul situations, she was taking Clark out right after Indiana had built a bit of rhythm or forced Atlanta into uncomfortable possessions. Kelsey Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston still produced at a high level, Mitchell finishing with 26 points and Boston adding 23. But the looks became tougher as the game went on. Atlanta was able to load up inside, collapsing on drives and forcing Indiana into contested attempts. Sophie Cunningham's 12 points mostly came early, and by the fourth quarter her shot had cooled off, removing another spacing option Indiana desperately needed. By the time the final period arrived, the decision-making around rotations became even more costly. Clark was still available and hadn't fouled out, yet she remained on the bench during stretches where Indiana's offense stalled completely. Atlanta didn't have to change anything. They stayed disciplined in their zone while Indiana struggled to generate clean looks. Possession after possession slipped away, and what looked like a close 7-point loss on the scoreboard didn't reflect the reality on the floor. Indiana never truly threatened in the closing minutes, and the opportunity to take control of the game simply...
For either of you again, they scored 60 points in the paint. Just what was the breakdown, close to the basket there?
Yeah, I think in transition they got easy ones, and then I think they had, however many fast break points, 17. So that's, probably that right there contributed to it, and points off turnovers. And I thought a lot of times that's probably on us guards getting into the ball a little bit better, so we don't have to rotate. But I think we could have done a little bit better. We're gonna have to rotate at some point, and we kind of went back to our old ways where that second rotation we didn't get, and then they scored off the 90 cuts and the 45 cuts. So we got to do better in that area.
This isn't an isolated issue either. The Fever have already seen multiple games this season where Caitlin Clark puts up strong numbers. Yet Indiana still fades in the fourth quarter. A recurring pattern has started to form, and at the center of it is how Clark's minutes are being handled in moments where the game clearly calls for her to stay on the floor. It's becoming a trend, decisions repeating themselves, even as the outcomes stay the same. And with each loss, the impact grows more serious, especially with playoff positioning starting to come into focus. Clark finished this one with 26 points and 7 assists, doing everything she could while dealing with foul trouble and physical sequences like the earlier ankle contact. But what followed after the final buzzer only added to the frustration surrounding the night. Stephanie White had several directions she could have taken in her post-game comments. She could have pushed back on the officiating, defended her star guard, or at least acknowledged some responsibility for the challenge timing and rotation choices that shaped key stretches of the game. Instead, her message landed differently. Rather than addressing those concerns, she suggested, directly or indirectly, that Indiana functioned more effectively when Clark was off the court, a statement that only intensified the debate around how the game was managed from the sideline.
Was out in that fourth quarter early on. I think you guys were down about double digits, and you guys rally after that. What did you think of the response from the team, and specifically Aaliyah, who kind of was in the middle of everything there?
I thought it was great. I thought it was great. Teams are going to go on runs. We're going to have situations where we need everybody to step up, and we did. I thought that group really dug in on the defensive end of the floor, got stops. We rebounded it well, and we moved it on offense. We made it a little bit more difficult because the ball got side to side. We got some higher quality looks and knocked them down.
Here's what Stephanie White actually said. We moved it well on offense. We made it a little bit more difficult because the ball got side to side. We got some higher quality looks and knocked them down. That comment came in reference to Indiana's 13-3 run during a stretch when Caitlin Clark was on the bench in foul trouble with 5 fouls. And when you read it in context, it stands out even more. That positive stretch she highlighted only happened because Clark had been taken out due to what many fans saw as questionable foul calls. Instead of acknowledging that reality, the moment was framed as a strategic breakthrough, almost as if it was part of a deliberate plan rather than a byproduct of circumstances. Meanwhile, Clark's actual performance tells a very different story. She finished with 7 assists and 5 turnovers, constantly creating opportunities, moving the ball, and setting up teammates throughout the game. Those numbers don't reflect a player who was slowing the offense down. They show someone actively generating looks for others. Yet none of that was mentioned. No reference to the 26 points she scored while dealing with foul trouble, physical contact around her ankle, or the earlier coaching decisions that disrupted Indiana's rhythm. Instead, the focus stayed on isolated stretches where the ball moved differently. Stretches that everyone watching understood were directly tied to Clark being off the floor.
I mean, I thought we let him get to the rim too easily. That was pretty much the story of when we had our defensive failings. It was our one-on-one D. We tried to wait until they caught the ball to defend. We didn't make it difficult for them to pass the ball around the perimeter, and they're fast. When they catch it on the run and attack our feet, we're already behind. And there were some times where we didn't have rotations. I thought they did an excellent job in terms of their spacing to make our rotations very difficult. But we've got to be able to guard one-on-one, and more than anything, we got to defend without fouling. I mean, we cannot continue to let people live, in the 20s and 30s in terms of free throw attempts. We just got to be better.
That third quarter challenge decision ties directly into everything that followed. Stephanie White used Indiana's only challenge on a play that, from the outside, didn't look necessary. That left the Fever without any ability to review a crucial moment in the fourth quarter, right when Caitlin Clark was sitting on 5 fouls and Atlanta was comfortably managing the tempo of the game. So far, there's been no public response from the Fever's front office regarding the coaching decisions or the backlash that followed White's remarks. No clarification, no adjustment, no acknowledgement of the growing frustration from fans. And until that's addressed internally, the results are unlikely to change. White praised a run that only existed because Clark was forced to the sideline, and no one inside the organization publicly pushed back on that framing. Clark delivered 26 points and 7 assists in her signature shoe debut, and still ended up at the center of a narrative that questioned her impact in the very moments she was taken off the floor. So the question stands: who really deserves the blame for this loss? The coach, the refs, or Reese? Let it know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more breakdowns and top stories.